is a creative leader and architect of Undefined Creative, a boutique motion graphics agency that works with household names like the NHL, NBC, Universal, The Maury Show, Better Homes and Gardens. Everybody's got gardens down here. And United Nations. She teaches at NYU and contributes her thoughts on entrepreneurship and leadership at 99U. Is that what that is? Okay. And here she is, right here.
My clicker. So this is my company. It's called Undefined Creative. And we're a creative media agency. Our focus is motion graphics. The company is about 7 years old now. I'm the creative director, and I also do basically all of the business development with a bit of help from my executive producer. And we are currently 3 full-time people. These are some of the clients that we work with, as mentioned. And this is a quick snapshot of what my competition looks like in New York. This isn't mathematically precise. It's basically the ad agencies and animation studios that decided to register on these particular websites. So given the size of my company, I'm just about the smallest fish in this pond. And that brings us to this question. How am I thriving? And more importantly, how am I landing pretty high-profile clients with basically no real sales team? And this is the answer. So I am literally a small business that is built entirely at this point on personal relationships. So to illustrate this, I drew up a couple of my client trees. Not all of them, but these are some of the more important clients. So when my company was just starting out, it was probably 2 weeks old, I met a woman named Rachel. And Rachel had her own startup that was launching. It was called Catch a Fire, and that was a professional volunteering platform. I loved Rachel. I'm a big believer in giving back, so I signed on. And the first client that we worked with was the United Nations. So that was a pro bono job, but we made a great relationship with the producer on it. So now, 7 years later, United Nations is still a paid client. We've worked with UNDP, the Equator Prize, and the UNFCCC. So when I first started the company, I think we immediately got on some crazy telemarketing list, and we were just getting inundated with phone calls. And on a particularly bad morning, the phone rings again, I pick it up, and the person on the other line says, this is so-and-so with Better Homes and Gardens, and my response is, I'm so sorry, we're just really not looking to subscribe to anything right now. Yeah, you know where this is going, right? And she says, well, we were actually just hoping to hire you. So after removing the foot from my mouth, I somehow managed to salvage that wonderful start to the conversation, and we landed Better Homes as a client. And it took us a little bit of time to figure out exactly how they just called us one day out of the blue. But eventually we did make the connection. Carla, who was the lead on our Better Homes and Better Homes and Gardens job, was looking for a motion graphics company. And then one night her husband came home and said, hey, I went to this Catch Fire event and met this gal, and they do motion graphics, and I've seen their work and it looks really great. So the connection led back to Rachel, effectively. As you could see from this slide, we wound up working with a lot of other Meredith brands. And all of that happened entirely by internal word of mouth. We had very little to do with this. It was basically a person from one department recommending us to someone else in a different department. Publishing is very volatile, people move on, so this tree is starting to branch out again. Now we have a relationship with the trade desk. So I'm hoping that one day this tree could be as big as the John tree. That tree would take the entire 20 minutes of my presentation to explain. But John is an editor that I worked with when I was in my early 20s. And as you could tell from this guy is single-handedly responsible, directly or indirectly, for a very large part of my client business. So I was very, very fortunate early on to realize that a good recommendation goes a very, very long way. And so I adopted this as my company mission. forging transparent, authentic human relationships with my clients. Right now, there's a line in our official elevator pitch that goes something like this. We're transparent ultra communicators who put emphasis on personal relationships so that we never forget our clients are real people, not titles and paychecks. And it sounds really nice. We worked on that. It's edited. But not everyone can live up to this pitch, right? Anyone can say that. But what makes it work for us is authenticity. Because I do like people, and I do like building relationships, and I am transparent, and I am kind of an ultra communicator. So it's not a brand or persona that I'm putting out there, it's my actual personality. So it's quite easy for me to live up to this, right? The second part of what makes this work is this, and that's connection to my team. Because if my team, I'm not one person, we're small, but I still have to ensure that the people I work with put forth the same message. And another part of that, of course, is it would be very difficult to convince my clients that I am all about building relationships if my team turns over every 6 months. So how do I build this connection to my team? I extend the mission to include them. I treat all of them like real people too, right? And what does that mean? It means I'm transparent and open with my team. It means I am concerned about the things that are going on in their personal life. I make sure that people have ample time off, that we have, great vacation benefits. We do have conflict. But I ensure that to the degree of my ability, right? I'm imperfect. I can be very difficult to work with. But I try to practice what I preach. And so as a result, if we're at a meeting and my executive producer goes off script, I don't really have to worry about it. She will say it in her own words, but she believes what we're selling. She'll say the right things. And most importantly, even if she and I fought the entire way to that meeting over something as stupid as our production schedule, she'll still believe it. So authenticity and consistency are the two things that help my company deliver on that message and on our promise. And that, in turn, builds trust, and that is what creates loyalty, and that is exactly what keeps people coming back. Now, probably at least someone in this room right now is saying, well, you didn't say anything about the work, right? You're in New York City, the work must be exceptional. So New York City is flooded with talented people. There's tons of us. And great work is just a must. But I honestly don't know of anywhere in the world where doing quality work is optional if you're going to build a successful business. So great work is important, but ultimately it's only a differentiator if everyone else around you is talking about how mediocre they are, right? So what is a real differentiator? It's you. It is the one thing that you have that no one else does. And this goes the same whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, marketing professional, it doesn't matter. So I talk about clients, obviously, because I'm a B2B. But you can extrapolate any of this to B2C, to consumers or customers, if that's the business you're in. And this is all exceptionally important, because what it comes down to is your clients are, in fact, real people. And when you treat them as such, they respond very positively. Who knew? And I found that the more authentic I allowed myself to be as an entrepreneur, the better I got at building relationships. So, for example, one of my huge passions is travel. And I'm known to go to, very random places for pretty long stretches at a time. And at first I was very reluctant to share this part of my life with my clients because I thought, well, okay, people are never gonna think that I'm serious about building my business if I'm going away on vacation for 4 weeks. But I also don't like to feel apologetic about the fact that my life has more than one dimension. So eventually I opened up and I would tell people where I'm going. And the response was so super positive. And strangely, I've actually inspired some of my clients to take overdue vacations. I got to know personal information about them. For example, I now know that I've got one client who's a network executive. He's got 3 teenage boys, and he still surfs every single summer. If you're in California, that's not a big deal. In New York, that's just not something people in their late 40s do. And so the other way to look at this is your actual clients are the people, not the companies. So when NBC hires me, it's not NBC that hires me, right? I get hired by Vinny and Tracy. And Vinny and Tracy both have work lives, and they have personal lives, and they have personal problems. And if I am respectful of that, Vinny and Tracy will hire me again. Same thing goes for your customers. Your customers are not market segments. There's a name and a face and a story behind every single person who purchases a product. So I heard this compliment from a network executive, and it literally went something like this. I really don't want you to take this the wrong way, but there are tons of very talented people in New York, and there are many design companies, and I'm not saying that you're not great, your work is great. But we just wanted to let you know that the reason we keep coming back is because we really like you. And we really like your team, and we just really love working with you guys. And, it's a really exceptional compliment to get, but it really opened my eyes because it also happens to be one of the more lucrative compliments you can get. Because at the end of the day, being great and likable will take you far further than being great and inauthentic. If you're good and likable, people will keep coming back to you. If you're great, you may get your foot into the door, but if they don't like you, no one wants to work with a jerk. It's true. We all know it, we just don't say it. So success, right? So like I said, I'm a company of 3 people. We've been around for 7 years, and this is the part where I'm supposed to talk about how we're going to scale this. But instead, I actually want to talk about the very definition of success. Because I think in our culture, there's a particular kind of success that we celebrate. And it's this very sort of big, ultimate success. There's never an end. There's always greater, bigger, more revenue, more profits, you name it. And I think the problem with that is I don't know that's what we really want. We internalize it and we accept it. And if we don't think too hard about it, that's what we wind up striving for. But what I did for myself and what I would encourage every single one of you to do if you haven't done so already is this. Because the trouble is, if you don't have your own definition, you will forever be chasing someone else's. Given our cultural definition, that means you might never arrive. And for better or for worse, you're going to be always chasing something else. How do you do this? It's pretty easy. You ask yourself good questions and you give yourself honest answers. What is it that you truly need in order to feel valued? Some of us need money, some of us need fame, some of us need particular kinds of clients. What are the musts? For myself, it was flexibility. For other people, it may be working as part of a very large team. Finally, what are you willing to sacrifice because you can't have everything? So this is my definition. Doing what I love, remaining loyal to my values, maintaining appropriate compensation, and having clients who understand my value. I say nothing explicit about money here, anywhere, because if your clients understand your value, they get what you're worth. So focus on value, the money will come. So find your own definition and let that guide your growth. And stick to it, because any time that you do something that's a little bit against the grain of what everyone else is doing, there will be a lot of very well-meaning folks who are going to try to steer you off your course. So own it, and then be the leader. These are some questions I ask myself now every single time I am faced with the opportunity to scale my company. Is it going to stay in alignment with my definition of success? Am I going to sacrifice quality for quantity? And this is pretty important. Am I going to lose the personal touch that made my company exactly what it is today? So, is there a secret sauce to all of this? Absolutely. This is the first one. Relationships take time and they take effort. And not everyone is going to want to build a relationship with you. That is okay. Some of these relationships are going to be toxic and not worth building. I've let go of a couple of client relationships over the years. So focus on the relationships that are working, on the ones that you enjoy building, and then take your time. This is another really big one. You are not entitled ever to have any of your professional relationships work out for you. So don't be too bummed out if it doesn't. If there's a lesson to be learned in it, do it and move on. Another important point I learned on this topic is that doing quality work is no substitution for maintaining personal relationships. And I made this mistake very early on in my company. We had a great client and we established the relationship, and then I thought, well, delivering great work is going to be enough. And when the higher-ups decided that they were going to pull the project in-house, our main contact no longer felt that personal connection, so he didn't really feel too compelled to advocate for us. And on the kind of post-mortem chat that I had with him, he literally said, you know, I just felt like you guys got too big for us and really didn't need this project anymore. And my jaw dropped because when we lost that client, it nearly killed us. And that brings me to this. That was the biggest takeaway I got from that. Again, going back to no one owes me a darn thing. And every single time one of my clients decides to pick up the phone and hire us, they're making a choice. They don't have to make that choice, and it's possible that one day they won't. I have to be grateful, because that is what is going to keep me and my company delivering on that promise. And the moment that I forget to be grateful, I'm going to screw up. So let's sum it up. People like to work with people they like. As I said, no one likes to work with a jerk. It doesn't matter how good they are at their job. It's only going to last so long. Loyalty is created through nothing other than loyalty. So figure out what your core values are, what your core beliefs are, stick to them, extend that to your team, extend that to your product, extend that to your clients, live up to these values, and the loyalty will come. Sustainable success depends on building and nurturing personal relationships, because at the end of the day, it is relationships that lead to opportunity, that create new relationships, that lead to more opportunity, and so on. And finally, real success is working, living, and growing according to your own definition. What I'd like to leave you with is this. Authentic relationships depend on treating people like real people. We're all human beings. We all work with human beings, and we all sit around all day and create products and services for other human beings. And if you walk into your office in the morning and just try to remember that, at the very least, you're going to have a much better day. Thank you.